These homemade buttermilk biscuits are soft, buttery, and packed with flaky layers. Today, I'll show you exactly how to make them from scratch with simple ingredients and a few easy techniques. Let's talk flour. To get that perfect flaky texture, we need a mixture of cake flour that has a low gluten content mixed with all-purpose flour which has an average gluten content. When we combine these two at a ratio of 1 to 2, we get pastry flour, which has just the right protein content for flaky biscuits. We're going to measure both flours by weight as it's more accurate and consistent that way. To that, we're going to add 15 grams of salt, 28 grams of sugar, and 28 grams of baking powder. Whisk that all together until everything's well combined. Once that's all set, we're going to move on to the butter. I froze 2 sticks or 227 grams of butter overnight to make sure it's extra cold. This makes it easier to grate and prevents the butter from melting into the dough, which is important when creating those flaky layers. Grate your butter straight into the flour mixture using a box grater. We're using a high fat content, unsalted butter at 83% butter fat, also known as European style butter. You can do this with regular butter as well, but the European style butter adds more richness to the dough and creates a better layer. Toss the grated butter into the flour so that each piece gets well coated. This prevents the butter from clumping together and helps distribute it throughout the dough. You should be able to see individual strands of butter throughout the flour. Now we're going to add 454 grams of cold buttermilk into the mix. Try to get every last drop in there as this is the only moisture we're going to add to the dough. Use a wooden spoon to start mixing the dough together. Once the buttermilk is mostly absorbed and it looks like this, we're going to switch to using our hands. Scrape the dough off the spoon and get in there and start kneading the dough until you see a little bit of dry flour left. Here's what your dough should look like, kinda shaggy but mostly put together. Now we're going to transfer it to a well-floured surface. Dust your work surface with all-purpose flour and gently tip the dough out of the bowl. Slightly shape the dough into a square so that it's easier to roll out. Lightly dust the top of the dough and coat your rolling pin with some flour so it doesn't stick. Now we're going to roll it out to about a ½ an inch thick. Once the dough is rolled out to the proper thickness, we're going to fold it into thirds like a letter. Each time you go to fold the dough, brush off the excess flour on the surface. This prevents trapping raw flour between the biscuit layers. To complete our fold, we're going to fold the dough in half by joining the two short ends together. Then we're going to give it a quick flip to make sure it's not sticking on the bottom. All that folding is what creates those buttery layers by stacking the butter throughout the dough. Now we're going to roll out the dough again, this time until it's about an inch thick. A neat trick you can do is use the first crease on your pointer finger to see if the dough is about an inch thick, or you can go with a ruler if you want to be exact. Now we're going to flour a round 3-inch cookie cutter so it doesn't crimp the edges of our biscuits. Push the cutter straight down, give it a twist, and gently remove the biscuit from the dough. Since we floured our cutter, you can clearly see all those butter layers throughout the biscuit without them being squished together. With the remaining scraps, grab a brush and dust off the excess flour. We're then going to stack the scraps on top of each other and then mold the dough into a rough square again. We're once again going to roll it out to about an inch thick. To get the most out of the second roll of dough, we're going to make square biscuits. Using a floured bench scraper or a sharp knife, cut off the sides of the dough. You should be able to get about 6 squares out of this, or if you'd like, you can reuse the ring mold to get an extra 4 biscuits. I would only re-roll the dough once, as overworking the dough develops too much gluten and melts the butter, creating a dense biscuit. Now we're going to chill these on a sheet tray for about 30 minutes before baking to re-solidify the butter in the biscuits. Before baking, we're going to brush the tops lightly with an egg wash. I like to use a simple well-scrambled egg for my egg wash. As you go to brush the biscuit tops, dab off a bit of the egg wash before brushing onto the biscuits. This prevents the egg wash from pooling on the biscuit so you'll get a more even browning. With all our biscuits ready, we're going to bake at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about 22 to 25 minutes, or until they're golden brown. Once out of the oven, we're going to let them rest for at least 5 minutes. I know it's hard to wait, especially seeing all those flaky layers, but we want to wait at least 5 minutes so that the biscuits get a chance to set up. And just look how beautiful our biscuits came out. All those layers you see studded throughout the biscuit are from the butter melting as the biscuit bakes in the oven. If we overmix the dough, or if the butter was too hot and melted into the dough before baking, then the biscuits would be dense instead of nice and flaky. Now that they had a chance to cool off, it's time to plate. I like to grab a few biscuits and layer them nicely around a plate. Every time I make these for breakfast, they're gone right as soon as they hit the table. And I think you can tell why. Look how easily these pull apart. You can enjoy them just as is, or I like to slather them with some butter and a little drizzle of honey right on top. Honestly, this with a cup of tea in the morning hits every time. Let's put the top back on and take a bite. Can you hear how crispy that is? It's so flaky, rich, and buttery. Get in here and check out how tender and flaky the texture is. Give these a try for your next breakfast or brunch and you won't be disappointed. If you enjoyed today's recipe, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.